Nebraska, it has some incredible landscapes. The river systems, sandhills, lush canyons, all those landscapes are used in agriculture. You want to preserve that way of life, but in Nebraska, because 98% of it is private ground, how do you conserve any of that?
Private property owners are the best stewards of the land. We're the ones that live here and care for it every day. You don't force conservation. You don't force preservation. It has to be landowner driven. It has to be optional. It has to be from the grass up.
This is where I've lived my whole life, southwest of Lincoln a ways. Everything we've always done has been to prevent the land from becoming something that people aren't able to make a living from. This has been homesteaded by my father's relatives in 1873, so we've continually had family members living on the property since that time.
It's just been always valuable to us.
And it produces food.
Yes, it does.
We have a cow-calf and corn and soybean operation, as well as hay. We also have virgin tall grass prairie, about 200 acres of it, which is a declining habitat, that there's very, very little of it left in the United States.
Our aunt and uncle's parents bought this farm in 1942. Wayne and I bought it in 1993. Our aunt and uncle had always farmed it without chemicals. And when we took over the farming operation, we wanted to continue in that. So we actually became a certified organic farm in 2010.
We're Shane and Christy Daniels. Don't look at the camera. There you go. We're Shane and Christy Daniels. Live on a small ranch, north central Nebraska, of a small town, Mullen. Raised 4 daughters here. A couple of them have come back to the ranch to help us. Got a couple grandbabies now.
3.
Love it. It's a tough life. Don't get me wrong, but we love it. Getting started like this, it's very difficult. The very few people just say, "Oh, I want to be a rancher," and can dive into it, because affording land itself is difficult.
It's getting harder for younger people to get into agriculture or ranching or land.
It's really expensive. You have to go out and buy a whole ranch. You're broke before you've even begun.
We have such a rich history here. The place has been in my family since 1884, when my first relatives moved over here from Germany, and now it's mainly used as a hay and cattle production place.
That's something you can't do.
Yeah.
It's a pride thing more than anything to say, well, my kids are the 7th generation to live on something that's been in the family for that long.
Yeah, you cut the I cut the horn. Ah, Joe.
If you think about it, the world's most fertile farmland is now under concrete. It's under the cities. We do need to preserve some open areas, some landscapes. We bought the property in 1989. People would ask if they could buy just an acre or a half an acre, 5 acres, and would offer us a really exorbitant price for it.
When development comes in, it comes in so fast. And it just feels like there's not a lot of great planning to it.
As Lincoln gets closer and closer all the time, there's just more pressure. There's just so much development.
Development is not only coming, it is here. So whatever we can do to protect the farm ground in Sarpy County, it needs to be done now.
You know, when you live on a farm, you grow up on the land. You grow up with the land. It's like it's your child or your pet or something, and you want to see it succeed and you want to see it continue.
Our whole family absolutely loved that space and that peace that you got when you were there, and began to realize how much of it was disappearing and how frightening that was. And then we began to hear about easements, and we had that right to do that if we wanted to.
We want land to stay in private ownership. Who is the best person to preserve the land? It's the person who owns the land. My day job is, I'm an attorney. I'm asked questions like, well, you know, this is permanent. Should we have a concern about being permanent? Landowners every day make permanent decisions, sell off their water rights, sell off oil and gas rights. Why shouldn't we be able to preserve this land for agriculture, for people to make a living? It helps the local community because you have individuals who are living there, taking care of the land, spending their money in the local community. If I'm a private landowner, I want to have the abilities to do what I think's right with my property. We have 3 conservation easements on 3 different properties. If it was not a good thing, we wouldn't have done any more after we did the first one.
Conservation easements are still very new to Nebraska, especially eastern Nebraska. It was an easy decision for us to do a conservation easement. Not only protects the farm, but it also preserves the legacy that our aunt and uncle had done in conservation on this farm. We knew that there was no danger of it being taken in a land grab, which has been rumored. All operating decisions are made by us. We farm it the way we want to, we plant what we want to. Anything to sustain the farm, to keep it a working farm, we can do that.
The main restriction is that it cannot be divided. And as far as the assessed value of the property and the county assessor and the taxes go, it makes absolutely no difference. It goes up every year just like everybody else's.
It doesn't take away from the public at all. I mean, I've read the controversy. There are some entities that are adamantly opposed to these conservation easements, and I guess I really don't understand why, because we still pay our taxes, and you know, we can still sell and barter and trade the property if we want to, but the easement will now go along with everything that we do, and so it has not affected our operations at all. I mean, quite frankly, if anything, it's probably enhanced it.
Grasslands are disappearing. We just have this passion that we want to do what we can, to preserve what we can. And I really feel like this easement is helping us do that. To have a tool like this that allowed us to basically tailor-make this easement to what aligned with our family goals, that was really important to us. One, are we going to be able to continue ranching on that ground as we have been in the past? And number 2, are we also going to be able to continue our nature-based tourism business? And that was really important because those are our 2 main revenue streams, so we had to make sure that that was going to work.
Part of my upbringing to leave some land where the wild things can live. I purchased this particular farm with the intention of putting a conservation easement on it and putting it all to grass. The easement made it financially feasible to do that. It's not a get-rich-quick scheme, but it meets the objectives of maintaining some wildlife habitat on the land and provides an economic justification and assures that it will always stay this way.
To even find 600 acres is hard to do anymore. You have to piece together 100 acres here, 100 acres there. And if you're driving an hour to every little bit of land, you get nothing productive done. And that's why this easement is so important, is to keep it together. We know that the land will never be separated.
This property came with an easement attached. The easement, states that it stays a typical Sand Hills Ranch. We can't build a golf course, we can't put up an apartment building or tennis courts.
Friends and family would hear the word easement and tell us, don't get involved. I think that there was just a lack of information of what their purpose was.
It doesn't harm us in any way or hinder us in the ability to manage our property. It actually afforded us the opportunity to become landowners. I have pride knowing that this property will stay a working Sand Hills Ranch in perpetuity.
That piece of land in northwest Nebraska is so important to us. Bought at enormous cost and lives. The breakout occurred in January 9th of 1879 there, and a lot of Northern Cheyennes were killed. They fled up the rocks that border the northern side of the land that is still there. For me, this is very personal because I had relatives that died there. Giving it to a conservancy that's going to perpetuate it, which is what we wanted, is a very healthy relationship.
That word, perpetuity, it gave me pause. And it still does, to be honest. It gives me some pause. It's hard to make a living out here. It is. We have thought about that development option. But at the end of the day, what do we want? In our gut, what do we want? Not only for us, but what do we want for our grandkids? And we don't want this place to change so much that it's unrecognizable. We want to cherish it, and we want to steward it. So that's what we decided to do. No regrets on that.
Because it's something people don't see and they can't touch it, they don't know how important it is to nature, to wildlife, to the soil, to the clean air or the water quality that we have. Dad had a say, he always loved the saying that you leave more than you take, leave it better than you found it. It's your job to show it to other people. It's your job to educate others, because then people become stewards they didn't know they were.
He just said, we're here for such a short time. And while we're here, it's our responsibility to take care of what we've been given. It kind of became his, didn't it?
Yeah. He died in 2017, and he knew he wanted to have his ashes spread over there, at least part of them.
We just so much wanted to preserve the prairie, not only because we loved it and because it was certainly productive for us, but it's part of our heritage and part of the history and the creation of this earth that we live on. It was really, really a good feeling because we knew it was protected.
A conservation easement makes sense when it has a purpose. And in this case, the purpose is to give us the knowledge and the peace of mind that what we worked so hard on and so many generations before us worked so hard on is going to not be something other than what it is.
I never really expected any of the kids to come back and do it with us, but fills my heart very full knowing that Rebecca and her husband Luke are back, and Allison graduated college, and she's like, well, can I come back too? And we're like, absolutely. As a landowner and having an easement attached to property, it's very prideful. It's very, very heartwarming to know that well into the future, multiple generations will get to see this ranch as a ranch.
It's a really good feeling to know that with all the questions in the world right now, that's taken care of.
An easement probably isn't perfect for everybody, but it certainly doesn't hurt to investigate it and research it and learn about it before you make your decision. It was still a good deal for us, and I think always will be.